What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to the Bet Leveling Show, and we are so back. We got an 8-game NBA slate for this Flex Friday today. I'm going to be going through each and every game for you guys, show you exactly what the public's on, give you guys the odds, the totals, and more, and give you guys my prediction on what to expect for today's games. I will also be going through my 5 favorite player props that I crafted here, went through the entire ins and outs, try to give you guys the best plays, and give you guys the insights on more, and show you guys exactly why I like those player props so we can have a great, successful cashing out day. Now, I apologize in advance for getting this video out a little bit later than expected. Recorded this earlier, but there were some technical difficulties, and because I want to get you guys out some videos and cash you guys out, I'm going to re-record this and get you guys going. So let's get this going. To start us off here, I want to show you guys the exact recap that we had from the day before. If you guys follow me on X, posted out 3 plays. We had a cash on this one. It's crazy too because I was thinking about doing a ladder, but I ended up not doing a ladder on it, and it would have been crazy because all of these guys that I picked all got 30 or more, which would have been on really nice cash if they all had that and I picked that. But we didn't, but we still had a good cash. KD, Steph Curry, Julius Randle, and all Luka to hit over their points line, and that was fantastic cash, easy cash, sweat-free cash, and we plan on doing that again today. But before we do that, we're going to dive into the entire NBA slate to give you guys and show you exactly what's going on in their slate. Now, before we go into that, I want to give you guys the chance to do the subscribers giveaway that we're doing here on our channel. If we get up to 1,000 subs, we'll be giving up to $250 worth of entry, when it comes to free entries for our sports books here. So if you help us get up to 100 subs on here, we'll give you guys a $20 to any random one of our subscribers, $20 entry. 250 subs will get out 50, 80, 100, and more the more we grow. And if you guys find value out of these videos or helps you out or like it, we appreciate it. And then also share with your friends too. Hopefully, we can help you guys out as we continue to grow. But we do appreciate the support all in all. Now, let's dive into the entire NBA slate that we got going on. The first game we got to start us off is our Houston Rockets versus the Detroit Pistons. Pistons being at home. They are the favorites, sitting at minus 160. Houston Rockets sitting at plus 150. The spread sitting at plus 4.5. The over-under sitting at 219. So pretty low-scoring game when it comes to these two. But I will say Houston is coming off of a back-to-back and a back-to-back OT. They ended up losing against Philly in that OT in the away, but they have been ramping up. They are 3 wins out of their last 5, so that's good. And then Detroit Pistons are 4 out of their last 5, and they've been winning 4 straight, so they plan on making this their 5th game winning streak. So something to keep in mind there. When I look at everything here, I think Detroit should take this game away, so I am with the public. But there's something about Houston that I feel like they can cover. That plus 4.5 spread is kind of whispering to me here. I think that's going to be the play that I look at the most and what we recommend you guys to pick as well. If you don't like the 4.5, because that is fairly close, I do like 8.5 or 9.5 spread. That's probably where I would tell you guys to kind of go through. Now, looking at the over/under, I think this game has a high potential, honestly, of plus 110, or for both teams to score 110 each, which would then put that at 220. I can see that. I can also see it going under just because Houston is coming off of back-to-back and coming tired legs. They could be fatigued. They're traveling as well, and Detroit could play slower pace. Who knows? They got great defense as well, so that can play a part. So I don't hate the under for this game. It's not my favorite. My favorite would honestly be Houston to cover that, 8.5 spread is probably where I'd be looking. If they do lose, they're not losing by more than 9 or 10 in my opinion. So that's where I put the most focus in this game. That's my recommendation. Now, going into the other game here, we got Phoenix Suns versus Atlanta. Atlanta is at home. Atlanta is the underdogs for this game here. Makes the most sense. They got their 2 additions of CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, and they've been ramping up a little bit, but not going anything crazy. But I think this could be a great breakout game for them both, and even CJ McCollum the most. Now, looking at the odds, we have Atlanta Hawks sitting at plus 140, Phoenix Suns sitting at minus 145. Makes the most sense. The spread sitting at plus 3.5 as well. And then over-under sitting at 234.5. So pretty high-scoring game. Probably a great game for player props. But if we look at Phoenix in their last 5 games, they've won 3 out of their last 5. They beat Philly, they beat Brooklyn, and then they beat the Knicks. And so they plan on, traveling here. They've been doing really well on the road. And I think this is going to be a good game where they could try to get another win out here. Now, looking at Atlanta, they only won one out of their last five. They won against Memphis in their last game. Maybe this could be a spot where they're trying to build momentum and they're getting a little bit better and more chemistry with their new players as well, especially CJ McCollum. So I don't hate Atlanta to kind of sprinkle a win here. I do like the spread as well in this game. I don't hate that. And honestly, if you like the Atlanta to win, it's a high potential. I mean, Jalen Johnson does really well. Dyson Daniels, CJ McCollum can shoot the lights out at any time of the day. So I think this might be a good spot where they can upset the Phoenix Suns. So I don't hate that at all. I know a lot of the public is on Phoenix to take this away all in all, but I do like Atlanta to cover. Maybe do like a +6.5, +7.5. I do think Atlanta can keep this game close. And then when it comes to the over/under, 234.5 is pretty high for me. Not saying it can't happen. It can absolutely happen. Both teams has the scoring capacity to do that. But 234.5, that's both teams scoring about 115 and 120 each. And that's a little high for me. So I would say and recommend to go on the under. So I would fade the public on the total as well. I like the under on this, 234.5. The under on that kind of screams, more of my direction. But I can also see it going over. So it's not my favorite play. My favorite recommendation, my biggest recommendation would be Atlanta to cover a +6.5, +7.5 spread would be my recommendation for this game. Now, going into the next game here, we got Sacramento going against Cleveland. This one should be a self-explanatory game. Cleveland being at home, Cleveland has been ramping up as of late. They haven't been playing the best this year. But, I mean, they're still Cleveland Cavaliers at the end of the day. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland's doing his thing, Evan Mobley. They got good team. They got a good team. They're not doing as good as last year, but that's A-okay. I mean, they can bring it back at any time of the day. I do think Cleveland takes this away. They're -460, so super juiced of a money line. Sacramento sitting at +450. The spread sitting at +12.5. Over under is another 234.5. So another game where this could be a great player props as well. So something to look at in that aspect. But looking at everything, majority of people are on the Cleveland to cover, but a lot of people are on Sacramento to cover the spread, and I don't blame them. I think Sacramento can easily cover. I mean, guys like DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Westbrook's doing his thing as well. Sabonis is back. This is a guy like a team that may not win, but they can keep games close. They can definitely keep it under 10, in my opinion. So I do love that +12.5 spread. That's probably where I would really recommend you guys take. So follow the public on this one. And then over under, again, 234 is a pretty high scoring game. Not saying it's not impossible. Both teams have the capacity to score 115, 120 each easily. However, 234 is pretty low. But I do like a high scoring game here. I know I went less on the other game. I think I might go with the public. But I would say and recommend an alternate line, maybe doing a 229.5 as opposed to 234. It just could get a little sweaty towards the end, but I like 229. I think both teams can at least score 115 each, or one team to get 110, the other team to get 120, and it keeps them under that 12.5 spread. So something like that. That's probably what my prediction would be for that game. Now, looking at the next game here, we got Boston versus Brooklyn. Brooklyn being at home, and this is another self-explanatory one that could happen. Boston sitting at -300. Brooklyn sitting at +300. The spread sitting at +8.5. And then over-under is sitting at 217.5. This is a low-scoring game. Lower than usual, what I will say when it comes down to Boston. Now, when looking at it here, majority of the public is, of course, on Boston money line. Makes the most sense. The line is just too juiced, in my opinion. Sitting at the +8.5 for Brooklyn to cover that spread. I think that could happen a little bit more. With it being low scoring, teams could be missing a lot more. They're expecting maybe defense, but I don't see these two teams being a defensive back and forth. Maybe they're just going to be a game where both teams may not be on the ball. But I will say my favorite prop and my favorite direction to kind of look at for this game will be the total. I really do love the over in this game. I know a lot of people are on the under, but I like the over. Last time I went against the over or went under for a Boston team, they scored like 130, 140, and they do have the potential to do the same thing. I think it's going to be a good spot for them. Michael Porter Jr. should be ramping up. Cam Thomas should be ramping up, hopefully. Nick Claxton's been doing really well as well. So I think this is a good spot for, this is going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion. Not crazy high, but I think it can get over that 217.5. If you don't like 217, I do highly recommend over 214.5. That's probably the play that I would really recommend for you guys here to focus on, of course, including player props, but we'll get to that towards the end. But Next game we got going on here, we got Indiana versus OKC. OKC sitting at home. This one is a massive self-explanatory game here. OKC should take this away with ease. They're minus 800 super juiced odds. Indiana is sitting at 750, and the spread is sitting at plus 16.5. Over under is sitting at 225.5. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, my main focus on this game here would be the spread. I told you guys from previous videos that I'm not a big fan of the spread of anything that's over 14, 15 and a half. I'm going to take that every single time. If they lose by that much, that's on them, and it is what it is. But anytime I see a plus 16 and a half, plus 17 and a half, anything higher than that, I'm always going to cover the spread just because these guys are professionals at the end of the day. They can turn the lights on whenever. They can play great defense out of nowhere. These guys are the best 300 players in the entire world playing in this league. So I think this is going to be a spot for that to happen where they can at least cover. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm always going to go that way. I feel like it happens more times than not in my favor, predicting of a plus 16, plus 17 more times than not. So I'm going to fade the public on this one. Do that plus 16 and a half. That's my recommendation. And then looking at the over-under, this has a lot of high blowout potential. If that's the case, I'm going with the under. Anytime there's blowouts, it's always going to be going under. Not always, but a good high majority of the time it's going to go under. So I'd recommend doing under, maybe under 229 and a half, just to be extra safe. Now, next game we have going on here, New Orleans Pelicans versus Memphis. Memphis being at home. Memphis is sitting at a minus 200 odds. Pelicans sitting at plus 190. The spread's sitting at plus 6.5, and then over-under is at 241.5. So this is going to be a high-scoring game. Very high-scoring game. Probably going to be a great game when it comes to player props. So that's what I put a lot of focus on, in my opinion. But honestly, I really do. I think I'm with the public here, and I really do like the spread for Pelicans to cover. Plus 6.5 is not a bad spot for them. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. They've lost 3 in a row. I think they're in a good spot to at least try to get a win here. And if they don't win, and they're trying to get a win, I think they're going to keep this game close. So plus 6.5 is probably my favorite. If you want to be extra safe, maybe do a plus 9.5, plus 8.5. That's perfectly fine too. And then just looking at Memphis too, they lost their last game. They won against Orlando when Ja Morant was going crazy. If Ja Morant goes crazy, I can definitely see Memphis taking this away. But I do also see Pelicans keeping this game close. So I really do like that. Now looking at the over/under, I know a lot of people are on the over on this game, but 241.5 is just super high. That's like both teams scoring 120, 125 each. Both these teams have the star power, the manpower to do that, but I just don't think this is going to be a spot for that. So I do recommend fading the public on this one and going with the under. I could be wrong, but that's just a high total, so I'm going to go with the under on that one. That's what I would predict. Now, next game here, we have Denver versus Milwaukee. Milwaukee is at home. Milwaukee is sitting with the minus 200 favorites. Denver is the underdogs on this. Plus 7.5 is the spread. And then we have the over-under at 216.5. So pretty low scoring, actually. Probably one of the lowest of the night. Now, Denver is coming off of a big win from last time they played, which was against Washington yesterday. So they just played, and they're playing on a back-to-back. And Milwaukee had a day of rest. The last time they played was in OKC, but they played at home against OKC. So they didn't have to travel or anything like that. So they probably are in a good spot, and that's probably why a lot of the public is on, or that's probably why Bucks are the favorites in this game. Makes the most sense. And so I don't hate them taking this game away, but I do like Denver to cover. Denver has been playing fairly well. Peyton Watson is looking like the most improved player of the year. I know Keontae George was looking like that, but I think Peyton Watson is starting to get into conversations where he can honestly may be able to win that if he keeps the momentum up. So this is a good spot for them. As long as there's no big injuries, if Jamal Murray's playing, Eric Gordon's playing, I think they can keep this game close. Maybe Bucks do win. I can definitely see that. I think this is going to be a good spot for Giannis to really take over. I really like Giannis in this game, and I'm really good. I just looked at some predictions. My top 3 best prediction players was Shea, Giannis, and I believe it was like Trae Young or something as my 3rd player. But Giannis is really one of those people that I can have a good gauge on, and I think this is going to be a good spot for him to really take over this game. So something to keep in mind, something to look forward to. But I can see Milwaukee taking this away, but I can't see Denver not covering a 7.5, maybe even a 9.5 if you want to be extra safe. But that's where I'd really put a lot of focus on. And then over under, I can definitely see this game going under. I can see it going over. This one's a toss up for me, so I probably will stay away from it. If I really had to make a decision, I would probably pick the over. I think I might fade the public on this one. Go over maybe 214.5. I think, both teams have the potential to score high. They really do. So I'm not too sure. Maybe just off of the back-to-back from Denver. And then, Milwaukee just hasn't been playing really well lately. Coaching's not been the best. Morale's not been the best. Chemistry's not been the best. So maybe they're focused on that aspect of a low-scoring game. But I can't see them still scoring high. So if I were to really decide and you want to go based on that, I would say pick the over. But my main focus is Denver to cover a plus 8.5, plus 9.5 spread. That's what I would predict for this game. And then let's get to the next game here. We got Toronto against Portland. Portland is at home. Portland is the underdogs here, plus 130. And then the Toronto Raptors are minus 135. Spread is super, super close at plus 3.5. And then the over-under is at 226.5. Now, I want to preface this entire thing by I am 0-14 or either 0-15 when it comes to predicting anything Portland. So when it comes to predicting Portland to win, they lose when I say they're going to win. If I pick them to lose, they win. I'm 0-14. So whatever I say here, I would probably recommend doing the opposite. But I'm going to keep going and try to predict because eventually it's got to come to an end. Hopefully, at least, right? Now, looking at it, honestly, looking at the last couple games here from Toronto, they have been on the road as of late, and they've won their last 2 on the road. They beat Golden State, and they beat the Sacramento Kings in their last game, and they're 3 out of 5 in their last games winning. So, they got good momentum. They got good players, not anything crazy when it comes to big injuries. However, looking at the Portland side, they've won 4 out of their last 5. 4 games in the last 5. They beat Miami, they beat Sacramento, they beat LA, and they beat Atlanta. Looking at Toronto lost to LA. Portland beat LA. Golden State beat Portland. Toronto beat Golden State. But I will say in the beginning of the season, or the first time they matched up against Golden State, they also beat them too. Portland beat them. Denny is back. Denny Avdia is back. They got great momentum. Drew Holiday's playing back. They got Robert Will. Klingon's playing really well. Jeremy Grant is back too, playing really well. This could be a spot where the underdogs win. I don't hate that plus 130 underdogs for Portland. Now, that probably means that Toronto Raptors may win, and most of the public is on that as well. But I can see a Portland upset. If I were to pick anything, I would say go with Portland spread. Adjust it a little bit, maybe plus 6.5, plus 7.5. If they lose, they're not losing more than 6 or 7. There's just no way, in my opinion. And in fact, I really do like the spread, or like the money line for the Portland. I may sprinkle on a money line for Portland as well. But if I were to recommend anything, plus 7.5, plus an 8.5 is what I would tell you. Now, looking at the over/under, I don't hate the under on this game either. I know a lot of the public is on the over, but both teams would have to score about 110 each, and that's still not hitting the over, and I think that's probably where it's going to be about. This is good defensive teams back and forth. It's not really a high-paced scoring team for both these teams, and I just think they can score high, but it's not going to be crazy high. So I do like the under on this game. Under 226.5 is probably what I'd be looking at. Now, let's get into my 5 favorite player props on the day. Show you guys exactly what I got going on. I'll show you exactly why I picked these player props, and trust me, I did a lot of research and delved deep into the decision of making these and putting these plays together to give you guys the best chance to cash out. And I really do have a great chance tonight, and I really do think we're going to make it happen. So let's dive into that 5-leg player prop, and let's get it going. All right, so let's dive into my 5 favorite player props on the day. And man, trust me, I did a lot of research on these. So let's take a look here. We got Kevin Durant to go over 19.5 points. Yes, I'm picking the same prop as the other day or yesterday. I'm going to keep, riding that wagon. I think he's going to continue to build that up, even though he had a 36-point game yesterday, against Philly. And he's coming off of OT, back-to-back, fatigue, traveling. I get all of that, but it's KD at the end of the day. Everyone talks so highly of him. He talks highly of himself, and he's a dog. And if he's building momentum, I think he can hit at least 20. So that's the reason for that. Now, Torrey Eason is my next one. Free throw attempt. I'll show you exactly why I picked that. I picked Jaylen Brown to go over 30.5 points. It honestly might bite me in the butt, but I'll show you exactly the reason why I picked that here in a few. CJ McCollum over 14.5 points and assists, and then Jeremy Grant to go over 10.5 field goals attempts. Now, let's dive into exactly why I picked these player props, and I think this is a good matchup for them, so let's take a look. We got Tari Eason here to go over that, to get over the free throws attempt over 1. Really just needs 1. I know this is a weird, unorthodox type of play, but this is what I'm rocking with. He's hit this at an 80% clip, and if we look at the head-to-head here, typically he hits the over. Let me pull that up here. So he typically hits the over on this. I mean, he missed it last game they've matched up, but 67% is not a bad miss, right? I think if he didn't hit it the last game, I think he can this game. This is also a low-scoring game. There's a lot of chances for rebounds and ones, fouling, all that good stuff. I think he's going to be in a good spot to shoot some free throws, especially against a great defensive team like Detroit is. So that's what I'll be looking at for that game. Now, looking at the next player here, I got Jeremy Grant over that 10.5 field goal attempts. Now, this is attempts. This isn't scoring. He doesn't have to make any of these shots. Now, if he's making, the more he's making, the more he's gonna, he's gonna shoot. And I think he's in a really good spot to have a great game today. His regular line's at about 14.5, 15.5, and he's got to get pretty close to shooting at a 11 or 12, 13 shots to get about that 15, 16 points, or even more. He might go for 20 or 25, and I think he's in a good spot to do that. And as you guys can also see, he's hit this at a 90% clip. And if we look at the head-to-head as well, he's hit this 100% of the time. He barely hit the over at 11, but he still hit the over. And I think this is a great spot for him to hit the over as well. The matchup is there, and the lineup is there, and all that stuff. So I think this is great momentum for him. Now looking at Jaylen Brown to go under. I know this is probably the one that a lot of people may hate for him to go under because Jaylen Brown's been cooking as of late. I mean, he's averaging close to 29.5 points, which is perfect for him. And this 30.5 is not a bad spot. But I'll show you why. If we look at it, the last 10 games, he's gone under this 60% of the time. Yes, he gets 30. Yes, he has that high scoring percentage as of late, but he is under that 30.5 majority of the time. And also, if we look at the head-to-head against Brooklyn, I know it's Brooklyn. It's one of those teams that's like, hey, anyone can score on them. The New York Knicks just smacked them by like 60 or 70 points the other night. I get all that. But 100% of the time, he's gone under 30.5 against this team. I know some games have been playing with Tatum. It's not just him holding it down. I get that. But if you look at early in the season when Tatum still wasn't there, the last time he matched up against them was back in November, and he still went under that 30.5. This game also has high blowout potential. So if it's high blowout potential, a lot of the bench will come in. A lot of secondary six-men's going to come in, which is going to be less minutes for Jaylen Brown, less points, less interactions. My best play or favorite play would be maybe 24.5 or even the RA for Jaylen Brown, but 30.5 just seems a little bit high. I might be proven wrong. If you don't like it, you can always fade it, but this is what I'm sticking to, standing 10 toes. Now, looking at the next play here, we got CJ McCollum over 14.5 points plus assists. Now, I always stay wary around 100% of the hit rate on things like this just because if it's 100%, they're due for that regression, but I don't think this is the case for CJ McCollum. He switched to a team. He's starting to build that chemistry. He's starting to play really well. He's shooting really well. I think this is a good team around when it comes down to the Hawks, that this is going to be a good spot for him to continue that momentum. And 14.5 points plus assists, I mean, he can get 15 points by himself with 0 assists. So I think this is a good spot for him. I think the regular line was 19.5. I just bought it down 5 points, but I do really like this spot. And if we look at the head-to-head here, he's hit it 100% of the time. And not only 100% of the time, he's gone crazy over. So I really like that spot there. It might be juiced of a line, but honestly, it's a good spot for me. Last play we have is Kevin Durant to go over 19.5 points. He's hit this at a 70% clip. He's only gone under that a few times, and I just think this is a good spot for him. And if we look at the head-to-head matchup, whenever he plays Detroit, he's been going over 30 every time he plays Detroit. The only reason why I don't like him to go over 30 tonight is just because of the game that he played last night in the OT against Philly, and he scored 37 points, I believe it was, and I just don't know if he has a back-to-back 30 game in him. It's KD. He can absolutely 1,000% do it, but against the number 2 defensive team and the number 1 team in the East, it could be a little sweaty. So I do like him to get 20. If you guys want to get, ballsy a little bit, you can always go for 25, or his regular line, I believe, is like 25.5. You can also do that too. I don't hate that in the slightest, but I just want to be extra safe. I did his 19.5, and that's what I'm sticking with. Now, I want to show you guys really quick the adjusted play that I'm going to be doing as well, other than just the one I showed you. Now, if you want to do the one I showed you from jump, that's an 8.5x on Prize Picks. So that's a really great payout. You'll get some good odds, basically a plus 850 on the regular sports books. And this is the other play I'm running as well. I'm basically hedging. I'm going to be doing the same play. However, I'm going to be doing Jaylen Brown over 24.5 points. So I really do like him to get 25. But here's the thing, too. We can actually cash both. If Jaylen Brown ends up with 27-28, he still goes under the 30.5, but he goes over the 24.5. And if everyone else cashes, we would cash both slips. That's the hedge there. If you want to do just the slip, I don't blame you either. Just the slip here is 6x. So if you want to do that as well, you're more than happy or more than welcome to do that. But this is what I'm rocking with. So I couldn't get my full hand on the Jaylen Brown prop. But just looking at the data, looking at the matchup, looking at the back end, it just made the most sense for him to go under. But I do like his points here too. That's just my hedge of being safe. Now, everything else is all good. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys like these plays, go ahead and tail it. Let's cash. If you don't, go ahead and fade them. Let me know what your favorite player prop of the day is in the comments. Would love to hear that. And please, subscribe, share, like, and all that. That would be amazing for the support. I appreciate the time of tuning in. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Again, thank you for everything. Looking forward to seeing y'all on the next episode. Let's cash.